Have you ever had a dream that felt so real it changed the way you see the world? Part of the 11th episode of the Sandman Netflix show is an adaptation from Neil Gaiman's A Dream of a Thousand Cats, one of the 4 self-contained stories from Dream Country, the 3rd volume in the Sandman comic book series. Let's analyze this multi-layered story that offers a rich exploration of some of the most fundamental questions of human existence. The episode opens with a kitten sneaking out of her house one night to hear a speech delivered by a charismatic Siamese cat at the cemetery. The Siamese begins by summarizing the human treatment of their companion animals. In this panel, the Siamese cat is depicted as a prophetic, powerful beast sitting on the head of an angel. This is clearly a religious connotation. This is an evangelist with a holy mission. There's also hints of the age-old and archetypal. The color scheme for this shot is essentially black and white. What this cat has to say has profound implications. She's caught hold of a deep, ancient truth, and she's here to tell you what it is. The cat reveals her life-altering trauma. She mated with a stray tomcat, gave birth to kittens, and enjoyed motherhood profoundly, only to have the kittens taken from her and killed by her human owner. As their father was not a purebred Blue Point Siamese like her, the human male owner, Paul, was not happy and claimed that these little bundles of fluff aren't worth diddly squat. The very next image in the comic depicts a pair of male hands grabbing a tiny kitten by the neck and putting the kitten into a bag. Incidentally, this is how mother cats carry their young, usually when relocating them for protection. The image draws attention to the non-human other being put to death on the grounds that it is radically different or deficient. Specifically, through the voice of a cat narrating her experience at the hands of her human owners, Gaiman disputes the assumption that humans are superior to all other creatures based on their advanced capacity for reasoning and rational thinking. The next image depicts the bereaved mother from behind, staring at the fire, a vivid visual clue as to what she's experiencing, directly defying the entrenched cultural notion that animals lack awareness of death and the range and complexity of human emotion when faced with loss. This particular cat, however, continues with the narration of her stubborn dream quest to find the answer to the crucial question: why could they take my children from me? Why do we live the way we do? It is this question that she poses to Morpheus, who appears briefly in the form of a dream cat in the heart of dreaming. Morpheus reveals to her the alternate past in which cats were huge and ruled over tiny humans. In this alternative history of cats and humans, it is humans who are treated like unprofitable kittens. The only function of humans was to bring pleasure to cats, as servants and as prey. This world was created for our pleasure. We roamed it as we would, taking what we wanted. But the Siamese continues, it took only 1,000 humans urged on by their leader who dreamed a different world, a human-centric one, a world in which we, humans, are the dominant species, in which we are the kings and the queens and the gods, to change the universe from the beginning of all things until the end of time. This visionary traveled all over to preach this message, and one night when 1,000 humans dreamed his dream at the same time, everything changed. Humans were huge and cats were tiny. Humans were the dominant species, and we were prey to them, to dogs, to their metal machines, prey to the world the humans had brought with them. Returning from the vision, the Siamese asked the Sandman, so they dreamed the world into the form it is now? And the Sandman replied, not exactly. They dreamed the world so it always was the way it is now, little one. There never was a world of high cat ladies and cat lords. They changed the universe from the beginning of all things until the end of time. The Siamese understood what she had to do, and so she now travels everywhere preaching her revelation. Dream the world, not this pallid shadow of reality. Dream the world the way it truly is, a world in which all cats are queens and kings of creation. That is my message, and I shall keep moving, keep repeating it until I die. Or until 1,000 cats hear my words and believe them and dream, and we come again to paradise. At this point in the story, the reader is urged to explore the idea of consensus. Here Gaiman indirectly poses an interesting question. Can we rely on the collective responsibility of many people to act as a source of authority? In other words, if a lot of people agree on something, can it be seen as a powerful force or the ultimate truth? Morpheus explaining how a human prophet convinced enough people to dream a new reality is a story about how powerful collective belief can be and how it can shape our reality. Neil Gaiman wanted to create a story about consensual reality and about dreams being fundamentally superior to reality because they create it and shape it. Similarly to many other issues in the Sandman saga, Gaiman uses a story, in this case about cats and human prophets, to explore how our beliefs and ideas are expressed and validated through stories. And the reader finally realizes the point of the cat's secret cemetery meeting. The Siamese is calling for a revolution based on a dream. If they could dream it, we could change things back. If we believed, if we dreamed. This story demonstrates the power that an alliance of dreamers can attain, but it also demonstrates the danger to those outside of or opposed to the ideology of that alliance. This story is essentially about an ideological wrestling match where cats and humans compete to see who will be all-dominant and who will be enslaved. Gaiman, meanwhile, engages our sympathy for both sides. The idea of human enslavement is bound to strike a chord with the reader, but as we watch the Siamese cat lose her children and suffer through her quest, her dignity and determination demand respect. It is hard for the reader to side with either the cats or the humans, which shows that this kind of authority is not right. Instead, Gaiman focuses on character development to show how individuals deserve respect even when they might seem unlikely to earn it. This approach shifts the focus from actions to the people themselves and encourages us to respect each person as an individual. In this issue, each cat has her own look and body language, so they would be perceived as individuals, not just animals. The reader is also experiencing this story from a cat's perspective. For example, the few times people appear, you only see their feet or hands. The world the cats live in is a secret one in which we play a very secondary role, and that's the attitude brought to the drawings. This technique is adopted in order to change the focus. It distorts our understanding of the things we're used to seeing by shifting our perspective to the shadows. It makes the reader and the viewer feel displaced. We look at those peripheral humans and think, that's us right there. And when we're shown nothing else about ourselves, the story moves on and focuses elsewhere. It's about others, not us. It challenges us to ask the question of what their lives are like, and more importantly, how our actions are affecting their lives. The kitten is oppressed, but her enthusiasm is partly dampened by the older orange cat who invited her to the meeting. Little one, I would like to see anyone, prophet, king or god, persuade 1,000 cats to do anything at the same time. It will never happen. The episode nonetheless ends with the kitten back home, dreaming and twitching in her sleep. Her owner comments that she's hunting something in her dream, some small animal, maybe a tiny human. The owner's comment that the kitten's dream behavior is really cute is meant to be ironic, as Sandman is after all a dark fantasy. Unsuspecting humans are sharing their home with their potential killer. Yet in the context of the human treatment of non-humans, animals included, the reality is exactly the opposite. It is cats and dogs that are locked in with their potential abusers and killers at night. And if this is how domestic cats are treated, human best friends as they are called in the TV commercial for cat food on the last page of the issue, then what can other animals hope for? The revelation that the Siamese cat has after the killing of her kittens is true for all non-humans. While we live with humanity, we could not call ourselves free. The 4 short stories in Dream Country all revolve around ancient and near-forgotten myths, and whether the kitten will succeed or not is hinted at in the final tale. As Death explains in the final tale, mythologies take longer to die than people believe. They linger on in a kind of dream country that affects all of you. However, myth is not the only thematic element connecting the stories in Dream Country. Another is the exploration of wishes and their consequences. Richard Maddock brutally exploits Calliope to fulfill his wish for ideas and eventually becomes a burnt-out hack who is abandoned by Dream and left with no ideas at all. Another writer, William Shakespeare, is granted his wish for greatness by the Sandman himself, but focuses so intensely on his work and artistic vision that he neglects his family, and by failing to see what's happening under his nose, loses his only son. In contrast, Urania Blackwell detests the greatness thrust upon her and wishes for a normal human life filled with family and friends. Because she can't let go of that wish and adjust to her situation, she ultimately wishes herself dead. In fact, the only ones in Dream Country who end up relatively happy are the cats, and they're the only ones whose wish isn't granted. Pursuing the wish fills both the Siamese cat and the kitten with hope and purpose, creating a journey for them that's arguably much more important than the destination. Another element common to all 4 stories is imprisonment. Echoing the Sandman's confinement in a basement, his former lover, Calliope, is imprisoned in an attic. Urania Blackwell imprisons herself in her apartment, and the cats are imprisoned by the whims of their human masters. The shackles on Shakespeare are less visible, but just as real. He's imprisoned by his obsession with words and stories, which builds a wall between him and his son. The most significant thing that links these tales in the context of the series, however, is that they all highlight aspects of Dream. The cat story is the most straightforward, showing us that Sandman's duties extend well beyond merely human dreams, and that at his best, the Sandman provides dreamers with revelation and hope. The Dream of a Thousand Cats is a powerful and multi-layered story that offers a rich exploration of some of the most fundamental questions of human existence. As we come to the end of this analysis, it is worth reflecting on the profound message on page 23 of the issue. It felt like the truth, or a truth anyway. In a world where truth is often a matter of perspective, this panel challenges us to reconsider what we mean by truth in the first place. If all stories are true in some sense, then what does that say about the way we construct our beliefs and perceptions of the world? Perhaps it's time to embrace the imaginative potential of storytelling and use it to create a new, more nuanced understanding of truth. As we continue to grapple with this complex challenge, let us remember the power of the imagination and dreams and how it can help us see the world in new and transformative ways. If you enjoyed this video, please like it to support it, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell to be notified of the upcoming content. This was Says and Tales. Till next time.